This video goes with the homework for lesson 2 in the data unit. You should have the homework completed already and submitted. There should be one submission that I can see that was before we corrected it, and then we will correct it with the video, and then you will resubmit it with your correcting marks on it and anything that you need to fix. If you haven't done that yet, go ahead and pause the video and then come on back to correct your assignment. All right, here we go. Make sure you have your homework open and you are ready to correct it by putting marks next to every problem, right or wrong, and fixing any that you need to. I'm going to go kind of quickly, but please remember to pause it if you need to check anything or make any corrections. On problem 1, I'm just going to point out some of the things to make sure you have. Make sure your double line graph has a title. Life expectancy by birth year, you could call it. Your x-axis is labeled birth year. Your y-axis says age. The years are along the bottom, and the ages are along the side. I started with 70, and to be able to do that, I had to put a break in my graph. So make sure if you started with 70 that you did that break. If you counted evenly, then all your data is going to be squished up at the top. So I would definitely encourage you to start with a break and then be able to spread your data out more. Make sure you also have a key. One color for male, one color for female. And now I can see I've got my points on my graph. Double check some of your points. Maybe check your 1985 ones. Let's check those real quick. Your male number for age for 1985 should be 71.1. So look at your graph. Make sure it's just above 71. And then for female, it should be 78.2. So just above 78. The female one. So just make sure you check a couple of your points. Make sure you got those graphed correctly. Pause it if you need to. I'm going to go on to the, I got to go on to the letter B. It says, use a graph to estimate the life expectancies of a male and a female born in 1997. So I just connected my 1995 and my 2000 points, and I estimated 1997 as maybe just a little bit less than halfway, because 1997 and a half would have been halfway, and I came up with, for female, 79.1 years, and male, 73 years. So if you're somewhere within, I'd say 2/10 of a year, I wouldn't even question it. That should be just fine. If it was a little bit more than that, then maybe we'd have to look and make sure your points were graphed correctly. And if they are, then that's probably okay anyway. Let's look at number 2. It doesn't say anything that these were January temperatures. I just looked at this and I thought, temperatures, these look like pretty cold temperatures. And when I added up the number of numbers in each data set, there were 31. And I thought, well, January is 31 days. Maybe these are January temperatures. You did not have to call it January high temperatures. You could just call it temperatures. I don't even know that these were the high temperatures. Maybe these were the low temperatures somewhere warmer than Minnesota. Who knows? But I called it January high temperatures. Make sure you have labels on your axes, temperature on the X, frequency or number of days or number of times on the left, on the y-axis. My bars on the bottom are labeled 5, 10, 15, 20, like that. I did not have to have one for 5. I just put it there. It's okay if they started at 10 for this type of graph. The y-axis, I'm counting evenly by ones. I also have a key. Make sure you have a color key to tell me which data set is which. And then here's what I want to point out. The bars for each temperature, so for like the 10, they're touching each other. And I can see data set 1, data set 2 easily. But there's space in between each set of bars. You can see right here, there's space. So that's important on our double bar graph, that there's space between each pair of bars. They're separated. So check your numbers. Make sure, maybe check, let's check the 15. Oh, we can't check that. 15, sorry. It should go, the data set 1 should go up to 6, and data set 2 should go up to 7. Yep, mine look good. So check a couple of yours, make sure that you did those right, and then let's keep going. Number 3 is a histogram. Well, to make your histogram, we need a table of frequencies. We call this a frequency table right here. So I did intervals, every 10 intervals. I did 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and so on. And then I just read off the numbers as I tallied them up. And I went 28, 14, 18, 20, 33. Instead of having to look through and go, okay, how many 10s do I have? How many 20s? How many 30s? Because then I have to end up looking through my list 5 times. If I just read through the data as I tally it, then I only have to read through it once. That's a lot easier. So the tally marks, you should write the total down when you're done with the tally marks. You could erase the tally marks even if you want and just leave the numbers, but at least have a number after your tally marks so you can easily see what numbers to graph. All right, so now let's look at the histogram. My histogram has a title, roller coaster riders, ages, whatever, ages of roller coaster riders. I don't know what you want to call it, something like that. Age on the x-axis, frequency on the left. You don't have to have the 0 to 9 category on the bottom. For age, you could have started with just 10 to 19 because that's as low as we had. There were no 0 to 9. I'm thinking, well, it's a roller coaster. They got to be a certain height, so that's why there's no 0 to 9-year-olds. And then the bars should be next to each other. That is important on the histogram, unlike the, bar graph. The bars on the histogram should be touching because one interval picks up right where the previous interval left off. So 20 is right after 19. So that's why the bars are touching. So check your numbers, check your bars, make sure they're going to the right spots. And then let's see, letter B says, explain how you can tell there's an outlier. Well, I can see very visually that there's an outlier because there's a gap. There's a gap between my first 4 bars, then there's nothing, and then there's 1 in the 60 to 69 range. So I can tell that one's the outlier because of the gap. The gap in the histogram totally gives it away. If you need to pause it and check any of those, go for it. I'm going to go on to the next page. All right, next page, number 4. Now they're giving us the graphs. We just have to read them. It says use the histogram, and these are states. These are the 50 states. If you added them up, you'd find out there were 50 states. How many states, how many states have a median household income greater than $51,000? So that would be both the blue and the green bars. Greater than 51,000 would be anything 52 or higher. So the 11 plus 4, 15 states have a median household income greater than 51,000. Letter B, estimate the median household income in the United States. So if there's 50 states, the middle state would be somewhere right in this bar. We don't know if all 22 of those states, their median income is closer to 43,000 or closer to 51,000. So if you gave me anything that would have been within that bar, anything between 43,000 and 51,000, that would have been a good answer. If you went exactly halfway, like I tried to do, I went with $47,000. That would be a great answer also. Okay, as long as it's between 43,000 and 51,000, we're good. Letter C, what percent of the states have a median household between 43,000 and 60,000? So that would be these two, the red and the blue bars combined. So the 22 plus the 11, so 33 of them. So then I used proportion method. 33 out of 50 is what percent? And maybe you just know to double it. You didn't have to do all the cross products. But 33 out of 50 is obviously 66 out of 100. So 66% of the households for letter C. Let's move on to our circle graph, number 5. The circle graph shows a budget based on a monthly income of $4,000. That's important. So all of these add up to 100% out of $4,000. So letter A, how much money does a family spend per month on transportation? So I find transportation, and transportation is 9%. So 9% of $4,000. You could use the proportion method, 9 out of 100. Equals what out of 4,000, or you could have just done 0.09 times 4,000. Either way, you should have found out they spent $360 on transportation. Letter B, a student claims the family saves more than $3,500 per year. Is this claim valid? Well, remember, this graph is a monthly graph. So first we need to figure out their savings is 8%. And when they said savings, they didn't mean like a discount that the family gets. They meant how much do they put aside? How much do they not spend from their paychecks? They put in their savings account. That's what they meant by savings, in case you were confused. 8% of their monthly budget is to put into savings. So 8% of 4,000, we find out is $320. And then since this was monthly, $320 times 12 gives us $3,840. That's how much they save per year. So yeah, that was a valid claim because they actually saved more than $3,500. So hopefully that made sense, that explanation. And then letter C, the family's monthly income goes from $4,000 to $5,500. How much more will the family spend on entertainment per month? So basically it's 2 problems in one. we had to figure out what the entertainment, 8%, so 8% for entertainment with the old budget, $4,000, was $320, and with the new income, $5,500, 8% of that was $440. So then just find the difference between those, and they will have $120 more per month to spend on entertainment. All right, finally, the last page, number 6. They give us a line graph. I'm looking at the title, average monthly temperature. Got months on the bottom, temperature. I got 2 lines. So the blue, it looks like, is New York, and the red is Sacramento. That's in California. Letter A. In which month is the difference between the average temperatures of the 2 cities the greatest? So I'm looking for the biggest spread between the lines, and it sure looks like that is in February to me, where they're most spread apart. Letter B. Last year, the average monthly temperatures of 2 cities were the same in 1 month. During which month do I think that happened? Well, I'm pretty sure that happened in July, because that is where my lines are intersecting, where they're overlapping. So it must have been July where they both had the same temperatures. And letter C. How many degrees warmer is the average October temperature in Sacramento than in New York? So I'm going to look at Sacramento. My red for Sacramento, I estimated that at about 66. If you went around 65 to 67, we're good. The blue one, I said that was about 58. So I did 66 minus 58 is 8 degrees. If you showed your work and your temperatures were a degree or 2 off of mine, and then your answer came out slightly different, that's fine. But you should show me what numbers you used for your October numbers, so that I can tell where your number came from. So if you didn't, you should add those back in there. Number 7, the bar graph. It's a bar graph of Winter Games medal count from 2006. I can see it's a triple bar graph. We've got Canada, Germany, and the U.S. The U.S. is the, the colors are the different types of medals, gold, silver, and bronze. So how many medals did the U.S. team win? So I have to look at the 3 bars, the blue, the red, and the yellow for the U.S., and those to me look like they're about 9, 9, and 7, so a total of 25 medals for the U.S. Letter B, how many more silver medals did Canada win than the U.S.? So silver is the red. So I see Canada's silver is 10, the U.S.'s silver is 9, so 1 more silver medal than the U.S. did for Canada. And finally, letter C, a reporter claimed that Canada won more medals than the U.S. Nope, you got to add up the 3 Canada numbers. 7 plus 10 plus 7 is 24. We already had 25 for the U.S., so no. U.S. got 1 more medal than Canada did. And that's it. So make sure you have corrected them, paused, you've gone back and fixed anything you need to, and then you should resubmit this homework so I can tell that you have now corrected it.